Hello out there. If there's anyone out there, or for those who find this recording later on, I'm going to jump right into tonight's subject, which is some of my favorite films, either directed or produced or both, by Charles Band. He has been a um, figure in B movies since the uh, late 1970s and definitely in the 80s. He was a key figure in the initial direct to video market. That's where horror fans, I'm sure, are aware of films such as, Puppet Master, at least the very first Puppet Master, Trancers, which is a science fiction horror film. Puppet Master is a film about psychics go to check out uh, a supposedly haunted hotel and end up being picked off by puppets that are animated by magic of a Jewish puppet master that was killed by Nazis, hunted down and killed by Nazis, and just many others. Then he drifted into softcore porn for a number of years. And then in the early 2000s through maybe the late 2000s and into the late 2010s, there was in my opinion, a band revival where he produced a whole host of direct-to-DVD films. They were of a wide range of quality. Some were a lot of fun. Some were pretty awful. That's actually been the case with Charles Band from the get-go. You've got some really fun movies, kind of brilliant films in some cases, particularly when he was working with other directors or writers and you had the right cast of actors. And others are less so. Very few of his films, in my opinion, are not entertaining. Um, for example, I can think of two offhand that are not entertaining, and those are both the Evil Eye pictures, both of them. I find nothing of value in any of those, despite the fact that the first one has a cast of talented actors, um, several of whom were also in, if memory serves, Head of the Family, which is another famous Band film, one of his very best. So yeah, most people have heard of Head of the Family, Trancers, Puppet Master. Oh yes, in the Subspecies series, he did I think 4 actual subspecies films that they're titled Subspecies, and I think they all also feature Denise Duff as the leading lady. At least the first 3. It's been years since I've looked at Subspecies, so I could be wrong. Anyone is free to correct me if I am. And then there was the Vampire Diaries, which is sort of a subspecies tie-in crossover. There are echoes of those films in, oh my gosh, what were those called? Depraved? No, that's not right. There are a couple of films that he also did that they're okay. They're not as good as some of his other works. They're kind of in the middle of the pack. They're vampire movies that also feature one of Band's kind of trademarks or favorite elements to use, which are kind of tiny terrors, either killer toys, animated toys, or deadly puppets. Uh, one that pops in my mind, I mentioned deadly puppets, would be a film called Ooga Booga. Yeah, Ooga Booga dates from a period, well, the tail end of a period where band was playing around with sort of urban films. Some are good, some are not. None of them really rank among my favorites, so I'm not going to talk about those tonight. Maybe some other day. Or you can go to the blog I have called the Charles Band Collection. Hopefully, one of these days, I'll post a couple of more reviews there. Because I never did finish out the Evil Bong series. That's another one, another series that he did. Evil Bong. And of course, Ginger Dead Man. Gary Busey voiced the Ginger Dead Man in the first of those films. Yeah, and those are middle of the pack. Not terrible, not great. The Evil Bong series is kind of up and down as it goes. There were 7 made before I sort of lost track. But I'm not going to discuss those tonight. Instead, I'm going to discuss some of my favorites that are maybe a little obscure, or some people might disagree with my favorites. And again, that's what the comment section is for. And hopefully somebody will see this and will feel the urge to comment, either in agreement or disagreement. And that's what the like button is for too, and the like and the dislike button, whichever one you prefer to use. I prefer that people click the like button, of course, but hey, I can't control that. So Puppet Master, I'm going to start a little bit with the Puppet Master series, since that is one of his, one of the things that pretty much everybody knows about Band is the killer puppets. And Puppet Master is kind of where a lot of B-movie horror fans first encountered him. The killer puppets stalking the people in the hotel. Particularly the little puppet that had Blade's name of the thing. It has a hook on one hand and a sort of a knife on the other, and it really stabs people, cuts them up. The other one is Driller, has a drill for a head. But as much as I like that first Puppet Master film, it's not my favorite. In fact, my 2 favorite Puppet Master films are prequels. One is Puppet Master 3, which is set during the 1940s and is the origin tale of several of the puppets, including Blade. Blade has a very interesting background in this story. And we also Leech Woman, which is one of the more disgusting puppets of the lineup. But Puppet Master 3, oh my, I just blanked. I believe it's called Toulon's Revenge, set during the 40s. The Nazis are rounding up Jews, and Toulon, the creator of the puppets, the Puppet Master, he is a kid's entertainer with a little theater where he does puppet shows. The Nazis crash it. His wife is killed, and he swears revenge on the Nazis who did that. Again, this is a film that has a very interesting cast. And let me get that cast up here, since the names are dropping out of my head like you wouldn't believe. And, well, okay. Now, of course, the internet is deciding to not let me call up the Charles Band collection, so let's go here. So I can get to Puppet Master and Puppet Master 2, which don't help me a whole lot. Since Puppet Master, the original Puppet Master, Andre Toulon was played by William Hickey, and later the role was taken over by, in my opinion, a very underrated actor. So underrated, in fact, that his name is out of my head at the moment, which is too bad. However, He also appears in Retro Puppet Master. Retro Puppet Master is a prequel to the prequel. It's set during the 20s, and it in fact is the point at which it tells a story of how Toulon discovers how to create the puppets, that sort of captures people's souls in the puppets, and that's what animates them. It details the ancient Egyptian rites that he learns, and then 20 years later we have the Nazis. And this also is also the beginning of the relationship between Toulon and his wife, who then is killed by the Nazis 20 years later. Now, let me see if I can find the actor whose name I cannot remember. Guy Rolfe. Guy Rolfe, yes, English actor, very talented. Was in a number of horror movies. I think he was on stage more than anything, but he was Andre Toulon in Puppet Master 3. He is in the framing sequences in Retro Puppet Master, which is an origin tale to the origin tale that we got in Puppet Master 3. Retro Puppet Master, I really like it. I like it almost as much as Puppet Master 3. Fortunately, Retro Puppet Master illustrates, in my mind, one of the problems with the Puppet Master series. If you watch the films, you will find that if you're like me, you're kind of a continuity freak. You kind of like the pieces to fit together. In the Puppet Master series, these films, there's at least 3 different timelines that can be established, none of which intersect with each other. So Band has rebooted the series several times. For example, you have Puppet Master 3 set during the 40s. More recently, Band did a trio of Puppet Master films, also set during the 40s in the United States, where Toulon's puppets end up fighting Nazis around or shortly after Pearl Harbor. Nazis and Japanese agents. They aren't bad films. I don't like them as much as I do Retro Puppet Master or Puppet Master 3. The reason I'm not grabbing my copy of Puppet Master 3 is because it is not interesting to look at. It was acquired in a big giant box set that Charles Band was selling when he was touring the United States for a few years there, doing the Full Moon Road show. And one of the things he was selling was this like big collection of early Full Moon films, and all the DVD cases are identical, so there's no real point in showing it. But that's where I have my Puppet Masters 1 through 3 in that set. Although, that said, there is this. I picked this up several years back. I was in Walmart. I hate going to Walmart, but for whatever reason, I was in Walmart, and they had this in their DVD section. It has, which were all the Puppet Master films at the time, which, again, they go from good to bad, but there were, I believe, 8 of them at the time, 9 of them at the time, including what's basically just a highlight reel, sort of a movie assembled from clips from the Puppet Master films. And if you watch those, you will see at least just one reboot of the series in that sort of clip show. And even that doesn't connect with the Puppet Masters that were done with the more recent sort of Nazi trilogy, as I think of it. I don't know. There actually might be more than that, because the third film kind of ended on a note that was open, and the story didn't really end, which is a problem with a number of banned films, including Puppet Master, Retro Puppet Master. Retro Puppet Master, in fact, ends in a way where I really wish there had been a sequel, because it could have been a doozy, but never happened. So that was actually a lot more about Puppet Master than I had intended. So I'm going to sig into another one of Band's series that contains some of my favorite films by him, produced by him in this case. Those would be some of the Killjoy films. Killjoy is a very erratic and inconsistent series. The first one was part of, I mentioned, Band was doing or trying to do kind of urban films, an urban series of films. And one of those was Killjoy. This box was one, an edition that was rented at Blockbuster. Old people like me will remember Blockbuster. They were used to be everywhere, where you would go and rent DVDs and videos. And they went out of business rather spectacularly. And you could go into their stores, they were closing, and you could buy DVDs cheaply that used to be rentals. This is where I came by this. This is my copy of Killjoy. Limited edition. Ooh, but it was the Blockbuster rental. That's, you've got the Blockbuster sticker on it still. Killjoy was a demonic being who took the form of a clown. In the first film, he ends up getting summoned and stalks and kills some juvenile delinquents that were riding around in a bus. Not quite, I don't remember why, but they were, they're doing community service, and they ended up running afoul the summoned Killjoy, or rather they summoned Killjoy, and that was a bad mistake. The only thing to recommend this film is there are some interesting kills. If you're in a slasher film, there's some interesting kills in here. There is I'm pretty sure this is the one where there is a interesting sort of death scene in an outhouse, where Killjoy takes out one of the characters in this outhouse. But otherwise, it's one of the weaker films, so it's not a promising start to the series. What's even less promising is Killjoy 2. In that one, a teenager, as I remember, it's a little bit simple-minded, summons Killjoy to get rid of the people who are bullying him. Again, it's going for that urban sort of feel. The less said about Killjoy 2, the better. It is not worth. It's not worth the time to see if you are interested in watching it. Where Killjoy actually got really good and ranks among my favorite Band productions was with Killjoy 3. In Killjoy 3, we have the arrival of, and yeah, the light behind me that's sometimes on, yeah, it decided to go out right as I was going to go live. So it's a little tricky for me to hold these up so you guys can see it. And again, it's way too shiny everywhere. But Killjoy 3, we end up with, we add a kind of a posse to Killjoy 3, or to Killjoy and Killjoy 3. The urban approach kind of falls completely by the wayside, and this, not completely. There's still a little hint of it, but it's some college students, they're house sitting for their professor, and Killjoy Killjoy gets summoned, and Killjoy does what Killjoy does. Not gonna go into too much detail as to how or why, because that's part of the plot of the film. I don't want to spoil it. Anyone that wants to watch it, which I actually do recommend. But what this film does, let me make sure I'm not misremembering. Yes, this is the first film directed by, I'm going to butcher his name probably, John Lachago. Has other interesting films, but as far as the band stuff, the Charles Band, Full Moon stuff, he did some Killjoy films. They are fabulous. They are much better than the first two. That's why I said you're going to follow the Killjoy series, watch the first one, pretend the second one doesn't exist, go straight to Killjoy 3, where you'll meet these characters here. This one is a sort of a Chinese silent clown that has it's a conjoined twin sort of, and these are also demonic clowns based, by the way. But this one was, I believe, filmed in China. At least it was funded by Chinese. Yes, actually, I think it was filmed at a Chinese studio. But it has these characters, and it adds to the series. And most importantly, this character right here. Her name is Batty Boop. She is played by, and again, the name escapes me, Victoria De Mare. And she does a fabulous job as Batty Boop. She does the sort of Betty Boop kind of voice, and it's just scary, sexy, freaky, nice Betty Boop kind of riff in her performance as well. Just a very neat, sort of monstrous and spooky demonic character that gets added to the mix. And then there's this guy, sort of a violent, sad clown. Killjoy 3, one of the best. It's got a nice, tense plot. It's got sympathetic victims. That was another problem with the first two. Or maybe it was just me. I could not sympathize with the characters. In fact, particularly in the first one, the quicker Killjoy would kill them off, the happier, as far as I was concerned. I did not like those characters. And in the second one, there was just nothing there for me to engage with. This one, cared about the characters. Also, it's got Jessica Whittaker in it. Also does a very good job. I don't think her career went anywhere, but she's in here. She did a few films for band, and then I think she kind of drifted away from acting. But again, Killjoy 3, great. Now, with Killjoy 3, let's make sure here. Yeah. In Killjoy 3, actually, Killjoy doesn't finish off the victims. I mean, the intended victims. He does take care of the person who summoned him, but in the end, he kind of goes a little soft. And as a result, demon going soft can't have that. As a result, he gets put on trial. He gets dragged back to hell, and he gets put on trial. And again, we have just a weird, crazy, completely unexpected the direction it takes in as to where you had the previous Killjoy films. Again, John Lachago directs, does a beautiful job. It's got a great cast of actors. Victoria De Mare is back. Oh yeah, and Trent Haga took over the role of Killjoy from the original actor as of Killjoy 2. He's kind of a non-entity in Killjoy 2. Everyone's a non-entity in Killjoy 2. But as of Killjoy 3, he's just absolutely hilarious and creepy. I mean, he's everything you want a killer demonic clown to be. Trent Haga. Again, I'm butchering everybody's names tonight. But again, fantastic job. It's well worth seeing. But Killjoy, having failed, is now being put on trial in hell. The courtroom scenes are fun. With the witnesses, some of his victims have to be witnesses. It's just a fun film, and you have the cast of demon clowns from Killjoy 3 returning, and they all do a beautiful job. And it's also just it's a I don't know if I can say this about this, but it's a beautiful film. The colors, it's like there's bright colors, and it's interesting how a film can be so brightly can be spooky and yet brightly colored at the same time, and creepy and gory and just funny as all get out. Killjoy Goes to Hell. I highly recommend it if you're looking for something to entertain yourself here this Halloween season. It's another excellent film. And there's more detailed reviews over on the Charles Band Collection, like I mentioned. Finally, as far as I'm aware, the last of the official Killjoy films, although at least one of the characters shows up in the Evil Bong series, and Lachago also directs this one, if memory serves, yes, is Killjoy's Psycho Circus. In the last film, Killjoy was put on trial, and he decides him and his clown associates decide to turn their back on hell a little bit. They go to Earth, where they set up shop doing a cable access TV show, basically. Or I guess now it would be like a streaming broadcast or something. Basically, they're on YouTube. They have a show that they do. It's a cable access show where they do creepy clown stuff. And again, it's an excellent horror comedy. There's a lot of mocking of Hollywood actors and egos that get inflated when they find success. It just works well as a comedy and as a horror film. Again, just got a great cast of actors. Victoria DeMar, Trent Haga. Who else shows up in this one? Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Once again, the name's out of my head. Let me hopefully... yeah, Robin Sidney. Robin Sidney was in a whole bunch of Band's films in the early and mid-2000s. And she's in here playing a knockoff Batty Boop, because Batty Boop has had a falling out with Killjoy, and so she needs to be replaced. That also, it resolves itself rather nicely in the film. There's a production still of Victoria DeMar strangling Robin Sidney as Betty Boop. Doesn't quite show up in the film, which is a shame, because I think that would have been a much better scene than what actually was in the film. But that complaint aside, again, another very fun movie that I recommend in a B movie kind of way. These are all definitely fun films. They're not the sort of thing that you take your college professor to go, your film studies professor to go see, but they are lots of fun if you like B movies. And with that, my other computers went to sleep. Okay, that's fair. That's also a sign that I'm going long. Oh my gosh, I'm going long just because I'm talking about some favorite films of mine. But I should probably pick up the pace a bit, because now I'm going to be getting into the very obscure end of things. These are not quite one-shots, but, well, one of them is, again, one of my favorites. Let's make sure here that I am looking at the right thing. Yeah. So, Sideshow. It is a a one-shot film, and it, as the name implies, it's set in a sideshow, and it's got basically the story is some teenagers go there, they make fun of the sideshow, they kind of mock it, and they end up paying the price. And they end up paying a price in a very spectacular fashion, every one of them. So it's one of those where characters get their, they're just desserts. The evil triumphs over dumb, basically, is the general theme of this. And it features Phil Fondacaro, also in a lot of bands' his best films. Here he is the ringmaster of the freak show, who orchestrates the punishment of those who mock him and his show. Very good. I like it. I recommend it highly. And another one. I just need to check something here real fast. Because there is, as I was sitting down to start this, I realized that some of my DVDs are missing. Either I put them in the wrong box last time I moved, or I lent them to someone and I forgot to get them back. So I just need to make sure that the film that I'm thinking of is in fact one of the ones I am missing. I already mentioned Head of the Family, but Head of the Family is in that big collection, so it's got a boring cover. There's no real point in showing that. Killer Eye. Okay, great. Yes. All right. Now, yeah, the film that I'm trying to remember. Well, there's a couple of them. One I want to touch on right now before I go to what is probably one of my all-time favorite band films. There's 3 of them now that I'm going to be talking about. One is The Creeps. The Creeps is, if you like the classic Universal horror set, the 1930s Dracula, 1930s Frankenstein, the Wolfman from the 1940s. If you like those films, I think you're going to get a big kick out of The Creeps. I would love to show it to you because it has a fantastic cover that really captures the film. In it, a mad scientist wants to bring all these literary horror characters into the real world, and they are, and so if he can, unleash them upon the unwary public. It goes a bit wrong, his experiment, and while he does get these creatures summoned or made whole, made flesh, they are half size of what they should be. So you have a cast of little people or dwarves or whatever we can call them that are a pint-sized Wolfman, a pint-sized Dracula, pint-sized Frankenstein. It is just it's fun. So it's the Mummy. I forgot to mention the Mummy, pint-sized Mummy as well. So it's sort of Charles Band, as mentioned, he's known for doing films with tiny terrors. Well, here the tiny terrors are not puppets, but miniature versions of the classic monsters. Of course, they don't. Particularly Dracula is very upset that he's not the proper size. So they break free from their creator, and they set out to rectify the situation and make themselves full sized, which of course will require them to catch victims and sacrifice them, and that's where the bulk of the movie starts, come into play. And Phil Fondacaro is Dracula, and he does an excellent job. I mean, he is a creepy as he's a good Dracula. I mean, he plays the role straight in this really rather goofy horror film, and that's what makes what makes the movie so much fun, is that he plays his Dracula character, absolutely straight. So The Creeps, highly recommended. Unfortunately, I no longer have my copy, unless it's in a box somewhere that I just haven't unpacked because I don't have enough shelf space at the moment. Another favorite of the more obscure banned films is, Hideous. It's another just weird, wacky, strange film with tiny little terrors running around. In this film, there's some competing collectors of oddities, like the oddities that were in the sideshow in Sideshow. In this one, there is there's a collector who has this creature that's been spawned out of toxic waste. It's played by Michael Citrinti. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's Dr. Lorca is the character's name, and he's acquired this little creature that has been born out of toxic waste, or toxic sewage, actually, specifically. Unfortunately, his creature was stolen, and the original owner wants it back. So little creatures get sent after Lorca. But not intentionally, the original owner of the creature has a hireling who is played by Jacqueline Lovell, who's been in several banned films of this kind of early 2000s, late 1990s era, and she's a lot of fun in this picture. Has some of the wackiest moments in any banned picture that I can think of. Lovell's running around topless in a gorilla mask for a bit in the movie. And there's also just some darn right scary scenes. The one that really sticks in my mind is where Lorca's assistant is killed by some of these tiny freaks of nature that escape containment and start killing anyone that they come across. Fun B movie, fun horror comedy, definitely something that I enjoy. I think others will enjoy it if they like fun B movies. There is a sequel to Hideous. It was made when Band was doing a lot of direct-to-DVD stuff. He returned it to Europe for a while to make films, and he used the castle that was in a number of his pictures during the 90s. Castle Freak was one. Another very good one. Some of these I may have to talk about in some other stream, because they are straight horror pictures, and they don't fall in the category of the sort of goofy B-movie sort of fare that I'm talking about now. The Puppet Master films barely fall into that goofy category because they are pretty straight-laced, at least until you get to those the three more recent Puppet Master films I talked about, and Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys, which is also kind of goofy, but one of the reboots of the series, which take me actually to this one, the sequel to Hideous. Hideous. This is Hideous. Recommend it. Get it. These may be on Amazon for all I know, on Prime. I know they are streaming on Full Moon's own streaming service. Maybe you get a discount of watching them through Prime. Sometimes there's free trials. You get the free trial, and if you remember to cancel it before the free period runs out, you can have a whole bunch of fabulous Halloween viewing for a few days there. So if you have Amazon Prime, see if Full Moon they had some sort of offer. Again, I like physical media. I'm old. While I do watch the streaming stuff, I like physical media, and so I haven't really watched much of. I haven't subscribed to the Full Moon streaming service. Maybe I will, but I have a pile of things I got to work through. So if I ever get through, not referring to issues to work through, but films and books and just piles of stuff that I need to read and review and just watch. But Demonic Toys 2. Demonic Toys actually is another really, really good Charles Band film. Has Tanya Dempsey in it as a cop, female cop who runs afoul demons. And these demons are in toys. And these are killer toys. In fact, there's the most deadly of them, which is a talking baby doll, Baby Oopsie, who kills security guards and whoever else she comes across. And the film ultimately ends up being a struggle for the police officer's unborn child, the soul of the police officer's unborn child. Despite the presence of killer toys, it's a pretty straight-laced horror film. There is some dark humor. I mean, there'd have to be when you got sort of a doll that wets itself but is now stabbing people to death. That's why it's called Baby Oopsie, because it's one of those Betsy Wetsy kind of dolls. Baby Oopsie got her own sequel as well, which is in the pile of films I need to get to watch. I need to get around to watching someday. Maybe that'll be the first new review to show up on the Charles Band collection in several years. Although most likely it'll be Evil Bong 7 before I get to Baby Oopsie. But Demonic Toys 2, yes, while it is a sequel to Demonic Toys, possibly a kind of sort of halfway sequel to Demonic Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys, it is also a sequel, probably even more so, a sequel to Hideous. Dr. Lorca shows back up. Dr. Lorca is still trying to get his collection complete of oddities. They have been, he's actually trying to get his hands on the demonic toys and the some ancient puppets that are in this old Italian castle. Things go terribly wrong. Lorca and everybody else ends up being menaced by demonic toys. So yeah, it's equally a sequel to both of them. As far as demonic toy sequels go, I think I preferred Now it's blanking, of course, again, because it's late, and as usual, I'm underprepared for this. I just really wanted to talk about and call attention to some of the weirder Charles Band films. And then I find myself wanting to talk about others, which I have not really even looked into. But let me see if I can find those. All right, Full Moon Classic Collection. That's another set that I've got. Full Moon Classics 1, Full Moon Classics 2. That's actually kind of where my DVDs of some of the older, frankly, higher quality Charles Band films are. Like some of the sci-fi films that he did, some of the slightly more kid-oriented things that he did. And of course, I am not finding the films I am looking for. Here we go. Doll Man. I was trying to remember Doll Man. Doll Man. There's a film called Doll Man versus Demonic Toys, and that's, I think, it's a better sequel to the original Demonic Toys than Demonic Toys 2, even though it's less of a horror film and just more of it's just goofy more than anything, but it's fun. I might be looking at it through the eyes of nostalgia. I will admit I haven't seen it in years. But Doll Man, well, I'll have to talk about Band's science fiction pictures one of these days. Trancer, Doll Man, Murder Cycle, a number of others. The ones that have Tim Thomerson in them are good. So maybe before the month of October is out, I'll revisit some of these Band films. Anyhow, I've been going on 20 minutes longer than I had actually counted on doing. So I'm just going to wrap this up at this point. If somebody, there we go. Someone actually commented. Thank you, something awry. He says, the only Charles Band movie I've seen is Dark Angel: The Ascent. Not regarding the theme, but the level of story or violence is hideous. Maybe a good side recommendation. Dark Angel, again, that actually ranks among one of my favorite Charles Band films, in large part because of the way sort of the demons are portrayed in that one. It is more serious than hideous. I don't really think the stories can really be compared. They're two very different sorts of films. Well, yeah, the level of story and the violence, I think they're comparable. Yeah. I think as far as the story and the violence, yes, they're about the same. Dark Angel is a little more, I'm almost afraid to use this word, a little more intellectual than hideous. You'll have more slapstick and more just weird for the sake of being weird in hideous. And there's one more film I was going to talk about. It's one of those that I no longer have a copy of, and I've been trying to find it. One reason I've been babbling about. And yeah, I'm sorry, something awry. If you commented a while back and I didn't see it. I've been desperately trying to find my commentary on this film that I cannot remember the title of or any of the people who are in it, which makes it very difficult, even though I have a bunch of reviews. I cannot find this one film. Let me look at, maybe Blake Bailey was in it. Nope, Head of the Family and Lurking Fear. So no. Oh well, maybe next time I do a band. Basically, it's another one of Band's Killer Toys movie. It's actually I like it a heck of a lot, perhaps even more than any of the Puppet Masters, aside from the original Puppet Master and the two prequels. But I cannot, for the life of me, remember the name or anyone who's in it. However, I can do this. So yeah, I wasn't meaning to ignore you, something awry, if you'd been there for a while. I was not looking at my face, talking to the camera. I was actually scrolling through Tiny Terrors. I can click on the Tiny Terrors tag. Oh yeah, Dollman vs. Demonic Toys. As I remembered, while I kind of preferred it as a sequel to Demonic Toys 2, it has some serious flaws. And there it is. I'm now refreshed about it. But I am scrolling down to find the film that I have been trying to remember for the last 20 minutes. Ooga Booga. Don't recommend it. Parasite Dolls. Don't recommend it. Yeah, there's a whole lot of bad films that Charles Band directed himself. Ah, boy. I'll talk about Stuart Gordon one of these nights. I am right now not going to get distracted. No shiny object syndrome. I'm going to find this film, even though I'm pretty sure people are going to stop watching because me invisibly scrolling through stuff. Oh, actually, Skullheads. I'd totally forgotten about Skullheads. That might be worth talking about one night. Again, not the best, but yeah. Demonic Toy 2, things to recommend it, but also has flaws. But still, I would. But Demonic Toys, if you're looking for a more straight-laced horror film with killer puppets, Demonic Toys is worth checking out. I'll have to talk about that one night too. Ragdoll, another one of Band's his urban films. That's probably one of the better of his kind of urban efforts. Again, killer puppet running around stabbing people. Blood Dolls. The film I was trying to remember. Blood Dolls with Deborah Mayer and Jack Maturin. That is perhaps one of Band's best killer puppet films. It's from the very end of the 1990s. In fact, 1999. Some shady business people get together to ruin the business of a competitor, and he then responds by going after them with a assassin who dresses like a clown, and a trio of living killer dolls. The blood dolls are the title of the film, and there's a priest in there as well that is chasing after that's so the film basically is the assassination of Virgil Travis. Yes, Virgil Travis is the character played by Maturin. So that's our kind of sort of hero, who is taking out these people who try to ruin his business and take it away from him. It is just, it's a weird film. But as far as Charles Band killer puppet movies go, it is one of the more fun ones. because it is so damn weird. And now that I'm thinking about it again, I really need to replace my copy of Blood Dolls. Hopefully, it's still available on DVD. I'll have to run over to Amazon and take a look, because it is one that I want to have on my shelf. I don't have time to watch movies more than once, but I like to have my favorites on hand just in case. And Blood Dolls is one of my very favorites. Yeah. Thankfully, I don't think Band's ever tried doing a sequel to it. It doesn't need one. It's perfect by itself. Anyhow, on that note, I'm going to call it a night. And thank you, Arai, for stopping in and sitting through my ramblings. I appreciate it. And yeah, definitely check out Hideous. I recommend it highly. Just as a fun, goofy film, goofy horror film. And on that note, I am going to sign off. Oh, and I never did. Said I might, break open my Halloween candy and taste test. I didn't do that tonight. Maybe tomorrow night, because tomorrow looks like it's going to be an absolutely crazy day. So I won't even have the time to do what little preparation I did today. So probably getting on the camera, eating candy, and saying whether I like it or not might actually be the level of thrilling and useful YouTubing I'll be doing. So on that note, I'm out of here. Have a good night, good day, happy time wherever you are. So I'm gonna click button number 1, click button number 2, and we are clear.